A boy stood in a cracked concrete yard in Brasilia, barefoot, kicking a ball that was half deflated while the rest of the world had no idea his name would one day be screamed inside the Santiago Bernabeu. No academy scout was watching, no camera was rolling, no one clapped. There was only dust, heat, and a hunger that refused to die. This is the story of Endrick Felipe, and before you keep watching, I want you to ask yourself something brutal and honest. What would you do if nobody believed in you? If your dream looked impossible to everyone except you? Endrick did not come from comfort. He came from a neighborhood where dreams are usually buried before they're born, where talent is common but opportunity is rare, where most boys with magic in their feet never get a single chance to show it to the world. He grew up watching futsal courts crowded with kids just as hungry, just as fast, just as desperate to escape the life that was written for them by birth, not by choice. The odds were already against him before he kicked his first real match. And yet, somewhere inside that small, skinny body was a fire that refused to accept the future everyone else had accepted for him. Think about that for a second. How many times in your life have you been told, directly or indirectly, that your dream is too big for someone like you? How many times have you shrunk yourself to fit into other people's expectations? Endrick could have done the same. He could have stopped at the first rejection, the first coach who didn't see his potential, the first scout who looked past him for a bigger, stronger kid. But greatness is never born in comfort. Greatness is forged in the exact moments when quitting would be so much easier than continuing. At every level, Endrick faced walls that looked unbreakable, defenders twice his size, coaches who doubted his temperament, critics who said he was too young, too reckless, too emotional to handle the pressure of professional football. But here is the brutal truth about every single champion who has ever lived. The criticism that breaks ordinary people is the exact fuel that builds extraordinary ones. Muhammad Ali was told he talked too much and would never back it up. Cristiano Ronaldo was mocked for crying on the pitch as a teenager. Michael Jordan was cut from his varsity team. Pain is not a punishment for the chosen ones, it is an initiation. When Endrick signed his first professional contract as a young teenager, it wasn't a fairy tale moment built on luck. It was the result of thousands of hours nobody saw, mornings when his legs were tired but he trained anyway, nights when other boys his age were out enjoying their youth while he was studying his weaknesses on video, refining his finishing, sharpening his hunger. Discipline is not glamorous. Discipline is silent. Discipline is the unseen battle you fight when no one is watching and no one is clapping. And it is the only thing that separates a dreamer from a doer. Imagine the emotional weight he carried, knowing his family's future, his community's pride, and his own destiny were tied to every match, every decision, every moment of pressure. Imagine being a teenager forced to grow up faster than your mind was ready for, having to perform like a man while still being a boy inside. That is the hidden cost of greatness that nobody talks about. Behind every highlight reel is a storm of self-doubt that almost won. Behind every smile on the pitch is 1,000 nights of fear that he might not be good enough, fast enough, strong enough to make it. But here is what made Endrick different. He didn't run from pressure, he transformed it into purpose. Every time the world doubted him, he let that doubt sharpen his focus instead of shatter his confidence. This is the mindset shift that separates champions from spectators. Pain is information, not identity. Failure is feedback, not a final verdict. When you miss the chance, when you get rejected, when life knocks you down in front of everyone, you have two choices. You either let that moment define your limits, or you let it redefine your limitless potential. When Endrick finally rose through the ranks, scoring goals that turned heads across the football world, his story stopped being about talent and became about belief. Talent gets you noticed, but belief is what gets you through the years nobody is watching. Real Madrid, the biggest club in the history of the sport, the club of legends, the club that has shaped icons for generations, opened its doors to a boy who once played barefoot in the streets of Brazil with nothing but hope in his chest. Let that sink in. A door that seems impossible to even approach can open for the person who refuses to stop walking toward it. Now ask yourself the hardest question of this entire speech. What door have you stopped walking toward because it seemed too far, too high, too unreachable for someone like you? What dream have you quietly buried because the world told you it was unrealistic? Endrick's story is proof that the gap between impossible and inevitable is built one rejected attempt, one early morning, one moment of refusing to give up at a time. Every warrior who has ever changed history understood one universal law: sacrifice today buys freedom tomorrow. The athlete who trains in silence becomes the champion celebrated in stadiums. The student who studies while others sleep becomes the expert others come to for answers. The entrepreneur who fails 9 times becomes the success story on the 10th attempt. Pain is the price of transformation, and there is no version of greatness that skips that invoice. So here is your practical truth, the lesson you must take from this story and apply starting today. Stop waiting for permission to chase your dream. Stop waiting until you feel ready, because readiness is built through action, not granted through comfort. Train your mind the same way Endrick trained his body, relentlessly, daily, without excuses. Treat rejection as redirection. Treat criticism as a mirror showing you exactly where you need to grow. And most importantly, protect your hunger like it's the only thing keeping you alive, because in many ways it is. You were not born to live small. You were not given dreams just to bury them under fear and comfort. Somewhere inside you is the same fire that burned inside a barefoot boy on a cracked street in Brazil, a fire that doesn't care about your past, your excuses, or your doubts. The only question that matters now is whether you are willing to feed that fire or let it die quietly while you watch other people live the life you were capable of living. This is your moment. This is your turning point. The world does not remember the people who waited for the perfect conditions. It remembers the ones who moved anyway, who trained anyway, who believed anyway, even when nobody else did. Endrick didn't wait to be chosen. He made himself impossible to ignore. And so can you. If you're ready to leave your old self behind and become the person you were born to be, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment, "I am unstoppable." Let the world know that your comeback has officially begun.